It's a
Hi, everybody, and good morning. Welcome to our week number 4 live stream for my research methods class. It is Wednesday, February 1st. I can't believe it's February already. I see a bunch of you kind of getting logged in, putting your names in the chat. Thank you so much for being on here with me. If someone could let me know in the chat that you can hear me and see me okay, that would be amazing, just so I can make sure I'm coming through all right on your end. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I got you some yeses. I'll take it. Thank you. So again, it's February. I can't even believe it. Today was a sad day for me, though, I have to say. I've shared with all of you that I'm a big Tom Brady fan, and I woke up this morning to news that he had retired again. I'm like, my whole family is like, yeah, we'll see if he stays retired, but it feels like it's for real this time. He seemed all like teary in his little announcement, and it definitely is long overdue. So I'm sad for that today. I'll just hold on to my little Tom Brady. I think my kids were like cheered. They're like, "Yeah, he's gone." I'm like, "Yeah, we'll see." He still has his Fox Sports deal where he'll be on there for like the next 10 years. So he's not really gone, even if I don't get to watch him play anymore. But the Super Bowl is set. We got the Eagles and oh my gosh, and the Chiefs. My other guy, Mahomes. So I'll take that. I still have a guy I'm rooting for that's in the big game. And I love the Super Bowl. It's just a chance to eat amazing food. So I'll move on from football, but I just had to acknowledge the sadness before we jump into this week's materials. But anyway, moving on from that, it is week number 4. We got a lot going on this week. I want to give you a little bit of feedback about last week. We had the discussion, we had the homework assignment, our first one, and I just want to give you a little bit about both of those. We'll talk about what we have due this week, which is our normal stuff on top of our first exam. So I want to spend some time talking about some study tips and ways to prepare, where and how to take the test, and all that kind of stuff. I will, of course, give you the extra credit question so that you can get those 2 points for joining me today. And then I will see if you have any questions for me. So, definitely a few things to go over today. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to put them into the chat and I will answer them. Otherwise, let's go ahead and jump over onto Canvas and we can take a look at everything we have going on. So, again, we are in week number 4, and you can expect every 4 weeks or so we will take an exam. So, before we move into week 4, let's go back and just take a look really quickly at week number 3 and a few kind of general pieces of feedback and comments. Hello. Hi, Taryn. So, a few comments from last week. Our discussion last week, discussion number 3, you were doing some searching, right? And I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of really interesting topics people came up with for this, which I thought was amazing. A lot of you did a beautiful job. You came up with a topic, you searched on all these different spots, you talked about what you found. Great job talking about the differences between an academic and non academic source and giving me examples. Nicely done on the advantages and disadvantages of Wikipedia. Overall, a really beautiful job. Very few of you lost points. A couple of you, maybe I wanted a little bit more, and I tried to give you that feedback in your comments. Still a few people not replying to a classmate. So don't forget to not only answer my questions, but also to reply to at least one of your classmates. And that gives you those 2 points, which are definitely going to add up every week. So you want to make sure you're getting those. Really, really nicely done. And hopefully you got a chance to see how different search engines are going to give you different results. They are going to be a little different. Sometimes it's not super drastic, but Google versus Psych articles are going to give you very different things like as a result of a search. So hopefully that gave you a chance to see how different sources can be a little bit different in the information that you get. The other thing that we had going on last week, you had your first homework assignment. And I love this. There were so many interesting articles that all of you found on Psych articles. Some of you used the same topic from your discussion, which I thought was great. Why not? I told you that was fine. But I really enjoyed these and I was impressed. Every single person who submitted an article gave me one that was APA formatted and in APA style. So really wonderful job on that. I felt like a proud parent reading through those. Overall, great job. What I loved is so many of you did a beautiful job, putting that first sentence or the abstract, identifying the different elements of an article. That's not always the easiest thing to do, and all of you did that beautifully. So very nicely done. I was also impressed with the short summary of the articles. This is a skill that it takes some time to develop. Being able to read an article and summarize it in just a sentence or two as if you were sharing that with someone else. And great job. I was really impressed with that. The number one reason that people lost points was not including the actual article in their submission. I want to say there were a handful of you who did not give me the PDF of your article, or maybe you linked it in your document but not the PDF. That was the number one reason. Otherwise, everybody did a beautiful job, and that was really the only reason that people lost points. So just in the future, make sure you're always, reading through the instructions. Don't forget any of those elements. That was probably the easiest 5 points of the assignment, and just a handful of you forgot, but otherwise, really, really nicely done. And as a side note, if you did not do homework assignment number 1, the homework assignments, the 4 of them, you can still submit late for partial credit. So it's not too late to go ahead and submit that. It's 10% off per day, but I stop deducting at 50%. So if you would like to still submit that, you totally can. And obviously any points are better than no points. I also really enjoyed your responses to the survey of checking in. Thank you for your honesty. So many of you were honest about, what you're doing and not doing. And I thought that was fantastic. So really nicely done on week number 3. We move on this week to week number 4, the last week in this first unit. And so this week we're not covering a chapter, we're covering APA formatting part 1. And what you'll notice as we go through is we're going to cover this in 3 different sections. So right here, we're kind of introducing APA. And then what we'll do from there is we'll talk about different elements of it as we get to part 2 and part 3. So for part 1, if we click on this here, part 1, our objectives are learning, what is APA formatting and when and why is it used, and understanding some of the general rules for avoiding plagiarism, such as when to cite or not cite sources and information. I give you a really quick summary, and of course you can listen to it or read it. Beyond the book, I have some reading here about APA formatting. What is APA style and when and why is it used? I have a couple of a short little video here. I also have some information down here about when to use sources, how to avoid plagiarism, when to cite sources, when don't you cite, and so on. So make sure that you read through all of this. You don't have a chapter to read this week, so your area here in the lecture is a little bit longer. I also have on the last page the key terms that you need to know for this. I'm not sure why these images aren't showing up. I'll look into that when we're done today. But make sure that you know these different terms here for the exam this week. Listen to or read all of the materials in the lecture. Watch the videos. They're all going to be helpful for you. I also have a little video that I made as a lecture, as always. Pretty brief, right? But what is APA formatting? When and why is it used? What are some general rules? Kind of the part where you should be listening to and taking notes for the exam. So make sure you complete that as well. And then there isn't a chapter, as I mentioned, for this week. It's more the little readings here along with the lecture. So make sure you complete all of that. When you're done with that, discussion number 4, our discussion for this week. As always, watch my little brief introduction video. Don't forget to answer all of my questions. Be detailed in your responses. Show off your knowledge and understanding. Think about them as like mini papers, really elaborate. And then don't forget to read through 5 of your classmates' responses and reply to one of them. In total, you can get 13 points for your responses to my questions and 2 points for your responses to a classmate. So what you're doing this week is you're looking at APA formatting. Number 1, what is APA style, and explain when and why it is used. Number 2, read the following 3 scenarios, and for each one, decide whether or not you think it's plagiarism, and explain why or why not. So this is building on the reading and the lecture for this week. So 3 different scenarios. Is it plagiarism? Why or why not? Give me your opinion. There is definitely a right answer for each of these. And so make sure you elaborate and tell me why or why not. And then don't forget to also reply to a classmate. So when you're ready, you can hit reply. Jaden has done that. Let's say I really like how Jaden did it. I could reply to her or Kai or Dana, right? Lots of people have already got going on this. So don't forget to not only reply to me, but also to a classmate to get full credit. So those are kind of business as usual, right? You have a chapter to read or like some reading material, a lecture and a lecture video and a discussion. Where it starts to get a little different is this week we do have our very first exam. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the exam and what you can expect, how many points it's worth, where to take it, how to study, all of that kind of stuff. So let's go through that together. Exam number 1, when you're ready to take it, you can click on this link right here, and it will take you directly to the exam. Now this is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m., just like all the materials for this week. It's worth 50 points. It has 50 questions, so 1 point per question, and you get 60 minutes or an hour to complete it. So just to reiterate that, you have an hour to complete the exam. You only get 1 attempt, so please make sure that you're ready and organized and all set before you begin. Now, what I would really recommend is you want to make sure you have a quiet place to take the exam. Make sure you have good internet. Make sure you have an hour to spare, right? You don't want to take it if you only have 30 minutes. Set yourself up for success in all of those ways. You can use your notes and your book during the exam, but I promise you that if you're trying to look up every answer, you are going to run out of time. And that is a little bit intentional. I want you to study and prepare like you would for a normal test. So what I would really recommend is that you utilize the study guide, and I'll show you that and we'll talk more about it in a minute. But make sure that you've studied, you prepared, you're organized, have all of that written out and in front of you and ready to go. And that's going to really help you to be successful. There are no trick questions on the exams. Everything should be pretty straightforward and clear. If it's not, read it again. All right, I did write all of the questions myself, and I will never purposefully trick you. So hopefully if you read it again, it will be clear. There is a clock, right? You have 60 minutes to take it, so be mindful of your time. If you don't know the answer to something, skip it and come back to it. It should be plenty of time for you, as long as you're prepared and organized and you move through it at a decent pace. When you're done, you'll hit submit quiz, and it's going to give you a score instantly. You'll see all the things that you got right or wrong, minus the short answer questions, which I do need to grade later. So you'll be able to see your score for the most part right away, and know how you did. So again, what I would really stress is set yourself up for success. Don't wait till Sunday night, right? Don't take this like Sunday at 8 p.m. Take it earlier in the week. Take it Saturday, Sunday morning if you have to. But when you wait till Sunday night, it's like the power is going to go out, the internet's going to go out, your computer's going to crash, you're going to get sick, something bad is going to happen. It always does. So try and set yourself up for success and complete it earlier if possible, or at least not at the very last minute Sunday night. But let's go back and, as I mentioned, there is a study guide for the exam, and I will always give you a study guide for every single test. So it's right here, if you click on it, study guide for exam number 1, and let's take a look at that together. So for exam number 1, this is on chapter 1, chapter 2 part 1, and chapter 2 part 2, and then APA formatting part 1 from this week. So if it is on the study guide, it will be on the test. If it's not on the study guide, you don't need to know it. So make sure you know all of these terms from chapter 1, all of these terms from chapter 2, and then all of these terms from this week on APA formatting, part 1. Now, these materials are going to be in the textbook, they're going to be in the lectures, they're going to be in the lecture videos. It's going to be a combination of all the elements that I've given you. Some of these things might be parts of videos that I've shown you, or just in the lecture, or just in the book. So what I would really recommend, and I am one of those like meticulous A students who does way too much, but it's always better to over-prepare for the first exam because you don't know what to expect, especially if you've never taken a class with me before. So what is not a bad idea is to go through and type or write out each one of these terms. So write out, what is a theory? What is hypothesis? What is data? What is circular reporting? Have it all typed out in front of you and do that for every single term on here. Because what that will do for you is as you're taking the test, if you don't know the answer because it's just not coming to your mind, you have every single term that you could need written out in front of you. You don't have to go flip through the textbook or flip through the lecture or try and find it in a lecture video. That's all going to take up really valuable time for you. If you have taken the time to write and type all this out and review it, it's going to be organized in order in front of you, and you can find it very quickly during the exam. Now, if you find that you over-prepared and you didn't need to do that much, you can scale back for the next test. But you never want to have that moment halfway through an exam where you wish you had done more, where you wish you had prepared better. So definitely, if you want to make sure you get a good grade, write out all this stuff, have it in front of you, be organized and ready to go. Then you don't need to worry about looking it up, finding it, understanding it. If you're having to do that for each question, you're definitely going to run out of time. So again, if it's on here, make sure you know it. If it's not on here, you can let it go. And these are all the things you can expect for exam number 1. And the exam is mainly multiple choice and true false, some matching. You'll also typically have some short answer questions on the exam as well. So just make sure that you're doing all of that. And the library presentation is something that could be on there. Make sure you watch that if you haven't already. But these are the things to know for exam number 1. And you will always have that study guide so you can be prepared and know what I'm expecting of you. Okay, so in addition to our normal stuff, so for this week, make sure you go through the lecture video, discussion 4, prepare and take exam number 1. If you haven't already, if you have an access memo for additional time or other resources, make sure you get that to me right away so I can update your timing or whatever it is that you are needing for accommodations. Other than that, we do have the extra credit question, which I will give you in a moment. I will, of course, post the recording of this later on today, so you can watch it later should you need to. But are there any questions for me about the exam? Any questions about the discussion, the study guide, anything at all for this week? Okay, let's see. Somebody said, I'm a little nervous about the material on the library presentation. For example, the library page on the MC website has changed. There's no longer a databases by subject link. Should we study what is in the module and the video as opposed to what's currently available? So there are a couple of little changes. Yeah, they definitely updated a couple of things since last semester. And I love that you noticed that. That's fantastic. The biggest thing, I'm not going to ask you anything nitpicky from them like that, but things that you might want to know, she went over like academic versus non-academic sources, how to use psych articles, stuff like that, like big things from her presentation. I will never ask you anything really, really tiny or nitpicky like that. So just make sure you know the big stuff like content-wise that she covered, advantages and disadvantages of Wikipedia and that kind of stuff. I won't ask you like things along those lines. I hope that helps you feel a little better. And I don't blame you for being nervous. Exams cause a lot of anxiety. So deep breath, study and prepare, have your notes with you, and you should do really well. Honestly, I don't think my exams are super hard as long as you